with Dr. Tammy Bradshaw Scott, a program dedicated to addressing current issues and offering solutions and hope for each new day. Dr. Tammy is a registered psychologist and licensed marriage and family therapist with degrees in clinical psychology. And now, here is your host for A New Day, Dr. Tammy.
Hello and welcome. I'm so excited that you've joined us today. Every day, you and I enjoy going about our days with the confidence that if we need protection from our law enforcement, they are a phone call away. They protect us when we are not even aware. They are on our streets, in our cities, day and night, patrolling to keep us safe. But unfortunately, these men and women in law enforcement are in danger and in harm's way every day. We see and read in the media about these brave officers being killed in the line of duty, all too commonplace. When an officer messes up, we hear about it for weeks or months. And even though there are bad apples in every field, we do not hear about all the brave heroism that goes on day and night with these officers. I personally believe that it is important to celebrate and honor our law enforcement for all that they do to keep us safe. I also believe that it is important for us to understand what goes into a day for our law enforcement to fully appreciate men and women protecting us in our communities. At this time, I'd like to introduce and welcome our guest who works with the San Bernardino County Probation Department and with many incredible officers. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Lauren Zinn. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you
Great.
for inviting me and having me. I'm so excited.
It's wonderful to have you here, Lauren. First of all, I want to ask you, what influenced your decision going into law enforcement?
I knew early on that I wanted to be in some type of career that involved protecting people and serving the community. And I knew that pretty early on. And when I went in high school, I was lucky enough to be able to get into two classes. One was the law enforcement class, and then the following semester I got to enroll into a crime scene investigation class, and I loved them. And I knew right then, I was like, oh, this is where I want to be. And I was lucky enough to have an instructor who kind of mentored me and told me the paths that I needed to take and the steps I needed to take to pursue a career in law enforcement. And so after that, I went to school and I got a degree in psychology. And prior to me finishing that degree, I had ran into somebody who worked for the probation department. And they had let me know, we're hiring and you should go online and check it out.
So now you've been doing this for how long?
It'll be 5 years in June.
Oh,
yes.
Great.
So I currently work in the mental health unit for our department. Prior to that, I've worked with juveniles and also sex offenders was my last assignment.
Great. Well, help us understand a little bit about what you do within the mental health department right now.
Okay. So I don't even say that I have typical days because I just don't. Everything is kind of off the cuff. It can go from arresting someone and apprehending someone if need be to helping defendants get their psychotropic medication that they need, or we have defendants who want to actively work and are seeking employment, and so we put them in our workforce development classes. And we set them up with attire that is suitable for doing an interview and for success. And we can set them up with clothing and shoes. And if they need a bus pass to get to that interview, some of our homeless defendants that we have, we help find housing placements for them, or we put them in shelters for the night. We also hook them up with gift cards, such as maybe a $10 subway card, or different services that they need for this particular point in their life. So, you know, my days kind of vary, and we also do home visits. So my defendants who are on my caseload, I go to their homes and actually visit them. We conduct room searches to make sure that they're in compliance with their terms and conditions of probation, making sure that they don't have any type of contraband, any weapons, anything that they're not allowed or supposed to have, just to make sure that they're in compliance while they've been given this gift by the court to remain in the community. So,
wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
And so what, you know, do you face when you go into these homes? I imagine that sometimes you can be faced with some scary situations.
We have, we definitely have some surprising situations.
Okay.
And, you know, it's not just our probationers that we deal with, you know. Sometimes we encounter people who are on parole or sometimes have active warrants out of different counties. And these individuals have prison sentences that are suspended at that time. And they've made it very clear that they aren't going back to prison. So, you know, that kind of puts us in an interesting spot, because that basically means that they're willing to do whatever it takes to stay out of custody, which may mean, you know, assaulting an officer or absconding from us and running through, you know, windows, houses. If there's any type of yards or fields behind the house, I mean, we've done that all.
So I imagine you would always have to be on alert.
Yes. Oh, yes. Vigilance is key and absolutely necessary, and I think that's probably one of the harder things we deal with, is always being so hypervigilant and always having to, I guess, watch your back per se, because not everyone, you know, is a fan of law enforcement or a fan of what we do, and, you know, maybe they've had some bad experiences, and they kind of generalize all law enforcement as either being bad or the enemy, and so, you know, they act accordingly to that that generalization of us. So
I imagine.
It makes our job a little difficult.
Yes, absolutely. What does, you know, the typical day for law enforcement look like?
Like I said, I haven't had a typical day since I entered the probation department.
So
But
very
it's
unpredictable.
good. Yes, but it's good because
Yes.
it keeps me from becoming complacent, which is so, you know, that keeps me alive. I truly believe that keeps me alive, because it constantly keeps me on my toes and keeps me astute and alert and always learning and always focused on, you know, okay, where are we going, what are we doing, who's going to be there, you know, planning out the details, and also, you know, kind of expecting the unexpected as well.
Now, from a psychological perspective, and we have psychologists who work, you know, with law enforcement to help them, especially following any sort of incidents.
Right.
But when we talk about resiliency, I know that there, you know, are folks who are more resilient than others, and the same is true of law enforcement. So as you talk about that heightened just alertness and having to be vigilant, it sounds like you do well with that. But how do you think that affects some officers? I mean, does that take a toll after a while, and how do they deal with that?
You know, I think as a whole, we just, like I said, we have to take our experiences day by day.
Yes.
You know, we don't always get a chance right away to reflect on what we learned or what danger we were in right that second. But later, when we're, you know, maybe at home or in our office and we have time to kind of decompress, I think we just use it as, like I said, a tool to go, you know what, this is what I did kind of poorly during that home visit, and this is what I could have done differently, and you know what, next time I'm going to remember this, and I'm grateful that it didn't go, you know, maybe a negative way right then, and I'm grateful that that nothing too terrible happened.
It sounds like it's important to have a real good camaraderie with the officers and the relationships. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because I imagine that having that sense of community and family, if you will, that it helps with that psychological component that we're talking about.
Well, and that's exactly what it is these officers become your family. These are the people you spend the most amount of time with every day. You know, they know your ins and outs. They know my, you know, I have partners that I'm like, it's time for Starbucks. And they're like, you got to get her caffeine or it's not going to be a good day. And they know that. Like, they understand that part of me. Hangry is a real thing. When I'm not fed, you never know what can happen. So, but you have those people in your life, and these are people you trust with your life. You know, these are who's out in the field with you, who's standing beside you and are you know, going to metaphorical war with you at times. You know, these are the people who you depend on, that if you get in a situation where it's life and death, literally, that's who you're depending on to make sure that you get home to your family. And they tell you that in core, you know. I know for me personally, I don't ever want to have to call my partner's family and tell them, you know, I'm sorry, they're not coming home today.
You know, when you are in the line of duty and you're having to be on constantly when you're out there, how do you, you know, how do you deal with that? How do you prepare yourself? What kind of training? Because you have to make decisions, correct? Very quickly. You know, unlike us, we can think through, you know, or have practice time for this or that situation. Right. But you all don't have that advantage. So, you know, when you're faced with a situation and you have to make that decision then very quickly, what's going on in that moment for you?
Well, like you pointed out, we really don't have, you know, hours to reflect on anything. We get split seconds to go, you know, this is what needs to happen. We need to go do it right now. So you are available, let's go. You know, and we figure it out and we look to our training.
And so help us understand a little bit about when you're in that moment and those final, like, you know, you have to make a decision. What's going on with you from a psychological perspective, mentally and physically? What's happening in that time? Because most all of us are not in a position where you and your fellow officers are. We're not facing life or death situation, the unpredictability of what's behind that door or what's on the other side of that wall. We don't have to face that, so can't imagine what you must have to deal with in those seconds. So what's, you know, kind of happens in the mind and the body when you're in that position?
As far as psychologically goes, you kind of just play it through your mind and you assess the situation and go, okay, have I had this situation before? No? Okay, well, what have I learned? What have I trained for? Okay. And then you look at what needs to happen right then. So if there's victims that need to be saved, or you know, are there threats? Are there immediate threats? You know, is there a dog in the front yard who looks like it wants to maul my face off? Is there, you know, somebody running out the bathroom window? Okay, he's a threat. I don't know what's on him. I don't know where he's going. I don't know if he has a weapon on him. But I have to get past this dog that's, again, wants to eat my face off. So there's I guess just
threats.
Steps. Yeah,
Okay.
There's steps that you take.
Okay.
And again, psychologically, like, you don't get to think about your well-being. You don't. And that's just honest. That is not, when I respond to things, my first reaction is not, oh, am I going to be okay? I don't get that. That's not what I do my job for. And I went into this job knowing that. You know, and I guess some of the bodily things that take place are, you know, you might shake for a minute, just kind of you know, that quick rush of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then other than that, you just do it. And I don't know how to explain that.
Yes.
Or maybe articulate that any better, is this is what I do. You know, I want to be here. I want to help people, and I want to make sure that this situation goes as smoothly as possible, and that the end result is that, again, my partner does get home safe, and that, you know, if there's victims in there that need to be saved, or, you know, need help, that they get the help they need right now.
Yes, yes.
And regardless of if that means that, you know, maybe I don't get to go home today, that's a very real aspect that I have mentally prepared myself to deal with. you know, and and my family knows the dangers that go along with this. I think that is probably the hardest part of being in law enforcement is, you know, I have an amazing family that I'm so grateful for, and sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
That would be the hardest part.
I imagine.
Is, you know, like I said, I would never want to explain to my partner's family, and I wouldn't want anyone to have to do that for mine as well.
Absolutely.
So, but again, in that moment, you don't think about any of that because you can't. You can't because this will be the response.
Yes.
And, you know,
Yes.
then nothing will be accomplished. So, you know, in that moment, we do what we have to do, and that's it.
You have to be on.
Right.
Crime is not predictable, so your job is not predictable. You never know what's going to happen. But I know there have been some major incidents and tragedies that have taken place. And would you mind sharing a couple of those with us?
Sure.
Of, you know, specifically the bravery and heroism of our law enforcement?
Sure. You know, one of the most recent ones we had was the Blue Cut fires. And I'm not a firefighter. I don't know the first thing about fighting a fire, but, you know, there was a need in the community at that time, which was these people's, you know, residences were evacuated very suddenly, and they may have not had time to lock up all their possessions or lock their houses or, you know, secure their animals or get their animals to safety. And the need was, you know, that we didn't want them to be re-victimized by, you know, first potentially maybe losing their houses, but also, you know, to looters or people who would take advantage of that kind of situation. So, you know, I might not know how to fight a fire, but I know how to secure a scene, and I know how to keep the community safe. We assisted with that. I believe it was over the full week, and we had officers constantly taking shifts to, like I said, just kind of patrol the area and sit on different areas that could be, like I said, victimized and taken advantage of during that fragile time. So that was one of the most recent things we did. And then, you know, I think back to, I can't believe it's going to be a year, but the Inland Regional Center, you know, and our agency was the largest agency to respond. We were the second agency on scene. We were there within 6 minutes of dispatch giving that call out, you know, and we had so many working parts that day. We had officers in the regional center where the active shooting actually took place. I myself was dispatched over to the Hernandez Center where we reunified the survivors of the IRC with their families. We had officers at the Rock Church right here in Redlands, and they assisted, again, with getting the survivors on buses and helping with transportation over to the Hernandez Center. You know, and there was nothing that could have prepared us that day, you know, for what was experienced. And like I said, I was not at the Inland Regional Center, but some of my friends, peers, that were there, you know, I know their lives are changed forever. All of ours are. But, you know, that day, it didn't matter what patch you were wearing. It didn't matter that you were a probation officer. It didn't matter that you were San Bernardino Police Department. It didn't matter that you were FBI. None of that mattered. What mattered is that we had a common goal, and that goal was we needed to save people. We needed to get them out as quickly as possible, and we needed to apprehend those subjects. Those were our goals. And regardless of if we had official, you know, active terrorist training or not, we didn't think twice. That was the need. The need is that these people are under attack and they need help right now. And you have seconds to go do it, and we did it, and we responded. And, you know, we had 23 of our officers receive Medals of Valor for for helping get those victims to and from hospitals, and being part of that caravan. And you know, we had so many vehicles of ours there that we were able to help them get to medical help and trauma centers immediately. You know, and again, that was nothing that we were necessarily trained for, but it was something we acted on because we wanted to. It wasn't even that we needed to, we wanted to.
Yes.
And you know, that was I couldn't be more proud of the officers I stand beside, and I get the honor of calling my colleagues and my peers, because they showed incredible bravery that day and courage. And you know, I'm in awe of them. So.
Absolutely. And you all did such an incredible job. It was clear that all departments, and like you said, it didn't matter the badge. You know, we saw all you folks come together. I do know an officer from Redlands who was a recipient of one of those awards for bravery. And it was very unexpected, but that goes to what your field is and what you said a moment ago about the most difficult thing you have to face is the very realization and possibility of you not going home at the end of the day. But you also realize that that's really what you signed up for. And that's a tough thing to look at. And most of us, you know, go to our jobs every day and have our careers, and we don't have to face that. We don't have to look at that reality of, hey, we may not be coming home. And while, you know, it's true, we all live with that. You know, life is, you know, can be short in that we don't expect, but you live with it every day, and the probability is so much higher for you folks. What would you like to share with the public, and, you know, anything that you'd like them to know, and what would be helpful for you and your fellow officers?
I know that, you know, none of us are perfect. We're not. We're human beings just like you. The only difference is that we have training, and you know, when we get hired, we go through extensive background checks and psychological exams and polygraphs, and, you know, they go through our entire background with a fine-tooth comb. But like I said, we get these split seconds to make decisions. But I want you to know that we're here for you, and I want us to thrive. And I think sometimes, you know, I think sometimes that's easier said than done. But I want you to know that we are here to help and to serve. We're not here because we get to wear a badge or put on a gun, or, you know, about the money. It has nothing to do with that. We just want to help. And I know it sounds so, you know, maybe naive of me, but it's true. That's what I got into it for, and that's what I'm still here for, is because I enjoy seeing people really reach their full potential. And, you know, I enjoy being there and being able to be of service when somebody is having one of the worst days of their lives, and I'm there to, you know, maybe possibly get them through it, or just make it a little bit easier on them, you know, and I enjoy that, and I want to do that. So that's what I got in law enforcement for. And like I said, I know none of us are perfect, but I truly believe we all have the same common goal.
Yes. Wow, that is amazing. Lauren, what would you, you know, how do you feel about some of the press, media coverage on some of what we've seen, you know, with law enforcement, and unfortunately maybe some things not handled well, but of course we don't see the full picture. We're just seeing part of what's being shown. How does that affect you and your fellow officers when you see this?
You stated it perfectly. I don't believe the public is shown the full picture.
Yeah.
I believe they're given the pieces and portions that are for entertainment value. And I believe, you know, it's much more, I guess, maybe entertaining to see when an officer is potentially messing up, or, you know, oh, they're taking advantage of that badge, or whatever the media might put the spin on. But like I said, we're here to help, and
Yes.
I feel like we're divided right now, and that it breaks my heart. It really does, because I just we deserve better, and not law enforcement deserving better. We as a nation deserve better. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you and protect you, but we can't do that with a lack of trust on either end.
Yes.
And I feel like there's this great divide, and it does. It hurts. It hurts.
Yes.
It hurts me, and I won't speak on anybody else's behalf on that, but I genuinely want to see the tide come the other way now.
Absolutely.
And just kind of, just enlighten people, and just really let them know that it's not all negative, and
Yes.
it's not, like I said, about us toting a gun or holding a badge. We just genuinely are here for you.
And so that's why it was so much on my heart to actually show, the days of what law enforcement do every day, So appreciate you and all the law enforcement out there. I just want to say thank you so very much for your commitment to keeping us safe every day, and your bravery that, the majority of us will never see, but I just want to thank you so much for that. As you have heard from our guests today, our law enforcement do so much to keep us safe every day. And I believe that it is important for us to show more appreciation and support for law enforcement officers. They do amazing work, and they and their families sacrifice so much. I want to thank our guest, Lauren, today for sharing her experience with us. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here on A New Day.
This viewer-supported program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is invaluable and appreciated. To send a gift or for more information, please contact Dr. Tammy at the address on your screen. And thank you for joining us for A New Day.